Augustine chapter 25. Come, let us observe it now. The auto claps. Begin in Beverly Hills. See how the blue Honda makes its way down the bumpy hill. And was anything ever more innocent than this? A simple car driving on a simple road? At the bottom of the hill, it takes a right onto Monroe Road. Monroe Road that soon becomes the long curve of Wellington Drive, the road like a closed parabola. At the end of Wellington Drive, the car takes a right onto Mona Road and drives its full length past the once tidy Mona suburbs on the left, Mona High School and the hockey field on the right, and then under the old Cutstone Plantation Aqueduct, and then past the old plantation itself, which is of course no longer a plantation, but the University of the West Indies. But now, as we approach Augustine, we lose the car under a copse of trees and yellow flowers. Zoom in then. Right here is fine, says Miss G. So Mrs. G pulls the car up beside the curb. I love this time of year, she says, dipping her head to look out of the car and up to the trees that grow along the pavement. The exam trees are flowering. By this, she means the pewee trees. There's a saying on the university campus, when the pewees appear, exams are near. And indeed, the trees are beginning to throw their batches of yellow flowers all over the road. It really is quite a beautiful harbinger. Miss G opens the car door to let herself out, but Mrs. G reaches over to hold her arm for a moment. Miss G, I just need to say what a pleasure it has been teaching you. Well, she laughs a little. In the end, I haven't taught you so much at all. I've just facilitated what your mind can do. But that has been a pleasure as well. Just watching you accomplish things so easily. Miss G reaches around with her free hand and clasps Mrs. G's hand. She nods and then says suddenly, My boy child Kyle, I will bring him up to the house tomorrow. You should meet him. Mrs. G smiles. Yes, I would like that. And with this they part. Mrs. G turns the car around and Miss G watches as the blue car becomes smaller and smaller until there is no car at all, just the road and the yellow flowers. Alone now under the pewee tree, the helper feels herself transforming from the person of Miss G back into the person of Gina. It is only now that her heart starts to race. As Miss G, she does not feel very much. Miss G is a woman who keeps so much inside her. Miss G is a woman with secrets. But as Gina, she allows herself to feel buoyant. She feels the exciting future not somewhere out there, but inside her own body. A certain lightness of being that could even allow her to float. It is beginning to spread inside her veins, this floating feeling, as if she could close her eyes right now and begin to rise up, up, up into the air. She thinks about the letter from the university that she can turn to look on right now. She almost squeals. It is one of those moments you feel the need to pause, to touch the ground, to breathe in deeply, to take it all in, to make a memory or even a monument, this pivotal moment when you feel your whole world turning. But the world has turned for her before, at this very spot, under one of these very trees. She did not know it at the time. It was that morning when Matthew stopped behind her and she had cursed him before she saw him, and then felt embarrassed, and then he had given her a ride to school. She did not know then that tiny moments change wide futures, that small axes fell big trees, that some days have more roads than others, and some roads more distance. How appropriate, she thinks suddenly. How strikingly appropriate. It was Mrs. G's blue Honda that had picked her up 6 years ago and carried her away from the future she had imagined for herself. And it is that same blue Honda that has just now returned her to it. She does not regret her life. No. Let us be more specific. She does not regret Kaya. So many early mornings since his birth, she has woken up in the dark in a cold sweat. She wakes up thinking of that other morning, the morning when he was born, and how she had held him over the toilet bowl, how she had almost stopped his life before it had really begun. It shames her, this memory, and it always comes back to her at the exact hour, pulling her from sleep. If this is what they call a blood Is this what they call a blood memory? As if at 2:35 each morning a murderous intent still pulses through her heart, or an echo of something she never actually did. When this memory comes back to her, she lifts herself out of her bed and walks over to sit on the edge of Kaya's small cot. She strokes his hair and wonders if there is some part of his unconsciousness being that knows this evil thing that his mother almost did to him. It is possible. She has read before about the vast chambers of the mind, how sometimes it remembers things it has no business remembering. But she thinks if there really is a part of his unconscious that knows the evil that faced him at his birth, maybe there is also a part of his unconscious that has forgiven her. Gina tries to be a good mother. She has vowed to protect him. She believes she owes him this. Ma Taffy does not always approve. She says, "Give the boy some space, Gina. Give him room to grow his own backbone." But how heavy is the weight of love, and how much heavier when it springs from a place of guilt. On those dark mornings, when Gina wakes up, she eventually goes down on her knees, the way women for years have gone down on their knees, and she whispers into Kaya's ears, "You are worth it." It sounds like a prayer or a chant over his life, and she really does believe this. She believes everything has been worth it. Meeting Matthew was worth it, and losing him, and dropping out of high school without a single subject, and being a simple domestic helper these last 3 years. It has been hard, of course. In the days following Kaya's birth, she would walk through Augustown with her head down, and the boys would sit there on the fence like high court judges and look at her, coy smiles on their lips, and she would suffer the weight of their contempt. See it there. She knew what they were thinking. See it there. You did go on like you was better than we. You say it right to his face that he was better than we. But look at you now. The higher monkey climb, the more the body expose. Ma Taffy never teach you that lesson, eh? Well, see it there now. You learn it. And you couldn't learn that from no goddamn book. You always act like your shit could make patty, like you make to eat from the high table. But now you eating suck scraps like the rest away. But the days turn into weeks, and into months, and into years. And she has learned how to lift her head up, and how to meet the gaze of these boys with a look that says simply, "Yes, I have learnt my lessons." And then a look that says something even larger and warmer and without judgment. A look that makes the boys ashamed and causes them to look away from her. So Gina believes it has been worth it, because Kaya is worth it. Because she has learned things these 6 years, it is true, that she could not have learned from books or with her brain. She has learned heart lessons, love lessons. She has grown up. She is only 21, but already she feels like a big, big woman. Standing now under the pui tree, Gina closes her eyes and takes a breath in order to make a memory of this moment. She can smell what Ma Taffy had smelled hours ago. The mangoes and the cherries and the Otaheite apples ripening together. And then all the vague but distinct everyday smells of Augustown. Coal fires burning, turned cornmeal turning, crack rice boiling, the sweat of black women standing over pots, the sweat of black men standing in the streets. But does she smell the sweet, choking smell behind it all? Does she smell what is coming? No, she does not. She can hear it though, the singing and the chanting that seems to come from the primary school. Yet she does not pay it much attention. Her fingers curl around the fat envelope. It is time, she thinks. So she walks now towards the house. And was anything ever more innocent than this? A simple woman walking on a simple lane? The lane does not feel emptier than usual, and Gina does not notice the few passers-by who look at her with a sense of expectation. She comes at last to the house, and up there on the veranda she sees Matt Taffy, and beside the old woman, a boy. For half a second she does not recognize the boy. Or she recognizes him the way we recognize people in dreams who sometimes wear different faces. She closes her eyes. She opens them again. Instead of a floating feeling, she feels a sudden flatness in her being. Just so. How a day can change just so. Her fingers are curling around the envelope in her hand, and then a shivering comes. A shivering rage. She remembers herself as a 3-year-old girl, and the body of Clarky hanging under the mango tree. Did the breeze make the body swing like a pendulum, or did it remain perfectly still? She cannot quite remember, but she thinks of Kaya's body hanged. Who would want to hang her boy? Matt Taffy is standing up. "Gina," she says. "Gina, come here and let we talk this thing through." But Gina does not move from the spot where she is standing, and Kaya is running to her, his arms open. He is crying again. No, not just crying. He is bawling, as if he has been saving it up all this time. It is a loud, wailing sound, a cry that is not weak at all, but has backbone. And this time, Gina does not tell him to stop as she usually does, but lifts him up into her arms and holds him close. "I never did anything, Mommy. I wasn't rude or nothing," he explains himself through snot and tears and hiccups. "It's Mr. St. Joseph cut off my ear, and I wasn't even rude or nothing, Mommy." She kisses his cheek. It tastes of salt. "Gina," Matt Taffy says. "Gina." Still, Gina does not respond. She lifts Kaya away from her and puts him back on the ground. "I soon come back," she says. "Gina," Matt Taffy calls to her, but Gina is already walking away, back through the lane, through the streets that are named as if marking a calendar. August Road, July Street, June Boulevard. She walks towards the school. The crowd by the school gate is not as big now as it was an hour ago. One by one, people have left. They have other things to do, other people to meet, goods to sell before the day is fully done, pots left on fires that need tending. They have also been told that the older sister Jilzine has died, so there is a funeral home to call, the body to move, the mattress to turn over, and the furniture to rearrange so that the duppy won't come back and haunt them. Also, Matt Taffy hasn't come to join them with the boy. They had hoped she would. It would have given them more purpose. They could have held the boy and hugged him and wept over him, and felt a greater sense of anger on his behalf. The teacher is also nowhere to be seen. They imagine he is cowering in some corner of the schoolyard. But without the teacher, and without the boy, there is nothing for them to group up against or group up in support of. After a while, the big feeling that set them marching and chanting at the gate feels a little foolish. The whole thing about the boy and his hair being cut, just another unfortunate incident. Spilt milk, really. Nothing that affects the price of bread. So one by one, they return to their lives. As Gina walks the last stretch towards the school, she does not pay attention to the people walking past her, but they notice her. They notice how she holds herself tight, but her whole body is shivering. They notice how each of her steps presses an incredible anger into the ground, and how the white dust from the Mall Road rises up in little bursts and sprinkles on her feet. They run back towards the school. "Mama, come in!" one of them shouts, and something is reignited, an energy that had dissipated. The focus they needed has finally arrived. Before, they were a hurricane without a center. Now, they can be pelting rain and gale force wind and red skies. They can be destruction and calamity and the brugalungdung. They begin bellowing for the teacher again. "Send him out! Send him out! Make him answer to mama!" They hold onto the gate and onto the fence and shake them. The woman whose job it is each evening to sweep and mop the classrooms of Augustone Primary, and who is still lingering outside classroom 2B, hears the rattling of the gate and the fence. She hears the loud bang as they are torn down. She hisses to her dog, "Jesus Christ, that sprat! That sound like autoclops!" Chapter 26. Consider the crowd, the phenomenon of the 12th man in English football. The way a crowd can bring out the best in a single player, how they can whoop and cheer their teams on to victory, but how they can also infect a single person with false feelings, anonymity, invulnerability, inherent morality, a reduced sense of responsibility. It is also the crowd that riots, that loots, that lynches. It is the crowd that pays for blood. So although Gina is so much inside her own self, inside her own anger, that she does not acknowledge the crowd, she is still a part of it. She is its epicenter. She feeds on its energy, and the crowd feeds on hers. No one here is an individual. Every man and woman is an extension of Gina. Even Bongo Moody, in this moment, is not quite himself, but an angry mother. In the almost 20 years since that evening when Clarky was found under the tree, Gina has not talked to Bongo Moody or met his eyes when they have passed each other in the road. To meet those eyes would be to face something neither of them wants to face, or something they do not even know how to face. The guilt of being small in this world and unable to stop terrible things from happening. But in this moment, Gina meets Bongo Moody's eyes, and his anger is a mirror of her own. "It come back to this," she says to him with her eyes, and he agrees. "Yes, it has come back to this." And then something passes between them. She does not say out loud, "Tear down the fence! Open the blood clot gate!" But he says it for her. "Tear down the fence!" And so the crowd that is in an extension of Gina pulls and pushes and tears down the barrier because this is what she wants. The gate crashes to the ground. Gina walks into the school. The crowd follows behind her. Now they are patting her back, literally pushing her forward, egging her on with, "Wicked thing the teacher man do to your boy, mama. Wicked thing. Yes, go deal with him case now. That wicked brute. Them fi left people pick me alone. After not them burnt nobody. Them too evil us and carry down." She goes to the staff room. It is empty. She walks around the compound to the building with the classrooms. Classroom 1A, empty. 1B, empty. 1C, empty. 2A, empty. Classroom 2B. Mr. St. Joseph's is standing there. His trousers, a size too small, squeeze his large thighs, and his stomach strains at the white shirt which he has tucked deeply into his trousers. His afro is untidy, and his round face is wet with sweat, but his expression is completely blank. "Ma'am, what can I do for you?" he asks, a strange stoicism in his voice. The crowd is gathered behind Gina, but they are quiet now. Gina does not need to ask if this is the teacher she is looking for, because on the floor there is still the evidence of his crime. Her son's dreadlocks, lifeless, On the edge of the teacher's table, the rusty scissors he used to cut the locks. She bends down and gathers the hair into the cup of her hands, and now she is also crying. Is your name Mr. Josephs? Ma'am, what can I do for you? Mr. St. Joseph asks again, but now he has turned his face to look above the heads of the crowd, out into the schoolyard. Sir, I want to know why you do this thing to my son. What him do to you? That little hooligan, Mr. St. Joseph whispers, but still his eyes are not on her and his voice is hollow and far away. The seeming indifference hurts Gina. She begins to tremble even more. Her eyes are red. Her mouth tastes of salt. She raises her voice. Mr. St. Joseph, sir, I'm asking you a simple question, please. Why you do this to my boy? What him do to you? You understand nothing about Nazarite vows? You know nothing about Rasta? Ungroomed little hooligan, Mr. Joseph says. It is a version of the speech he has practiced for the principal. But it's not even their fault, you know, ma'am. The parents are to blame. Sending him to school so unkept and nasty with that picky hairstyle. If you ask me, I did the boy a favor. For look at his skin, look at his high color. He could be a big somebody in this country. But he making out like him is a little bush African. Mr. St. Joseph's is a big man, tall and wide. But Gina doesn't seem to notice this. She lifts her hands to grab him by his shirt collar, and the crowd is now excited. Lick him, mama! Lick the brute! Him out the door! The woman whose job it is each evening to mop out the classrooms, who stands aside from the crowd unobserved, holds the imaginary dog Jack Sprat closer to her chest. Slut! Mr. St. Joseph says, still not looking at Gina, despite her small hands clutching his shirt collar. Rascalot slut! And now he too is crying. You rascalot whore! How you could do this to me? And Gina is remembering Matafi's words from an early morning so many years ago. Wicked blood clot whore of Babylon, dirty Jezebel girl. What could really make you think of doing such a thingy? To kill off your own little baby? That is murder, wickedness. Gina and Mr. St. Joseph's lost for a moment in their own histories. The past, when it takes hold of us, does not let go easily. But Gina hears when Mr. St. Joseph grunts, and she lets go of him, moving her face just before his fist slams into it. The crowd moves in. Gina thinks again of Matafi's words. Learn how to use the tools of Babylon against Babylon. And now she notices the rusty scissors on the edge of the desk. Was there ever more a tool of Babylon than this? She reaches for the scissors. The crowd draws its breath. Gina pulls her hand back and then throws it forward. She sinks the pair of scissors into Mr. St. Joseph's left eye. It pops. Blood shoots out of the eye socket and splashes the crowd. Everyone is shielding their eyes and screaming. The cleaning woman is running away, holding her imaginary dog and screaming. Emmanuel St. Joseph's is screaming the loudest, even as Gina pulls the scissors from his eye and it makes a sloppy wet sound. He bends over, holding the place where his eye once was, trying to stop the bleeding. At last the crowd dissolves into separate people, no longer an extension of Gina. The deed done, they want no part of it. And now there is a muttering. Jesus Christ, she shouldn't have did do it. I don't know if what fly up in her head, so. But Gina hears none of this. She turns around and the shocked group of witnesses parts. She walks between them. She wants to get back home. In one hand, she holds the pair of scissors. In the other, the dreadlocks she had gathered from the floor. The cleaning woman, who has now taken shelter in the staff room, is on the phone with Mrs. G. She has been given instructions to call the principal in case of any emergency, but she has done this once too often for the principal's liking. Once, it was because CIA agents had surrounded the school. Another time, because Patti LaBelle was giving a concert and acting rude. Mrs. G is therefore skeptical at first, but she also remembers that when the cleaning lady called about the CIA agents and about Patti LaBelle, she did not sound overly anxious, not the way she sounds now. "It awful here, Mrs. G. It awful. Blood everywhere." "What is awful? What is happening?" "Lord, them do to the teacher, man, bad. Stab him up, oh God." "Who has stabbed who? The CIA?" "What kind of CIA you talking about, ma'am?" "No, the people them from Augustown. Them tear down the gate and come in and stab up the teacher, man." "Which teacher, man?" "The big swarty fool one in a 2B, ma'am." And now Mrs. G knows the cleaning lady is telling the truth. "Yes, ma'am. One lady just take up something and stab him. Blood everywhere. Me not touching it, ma'am. No, me not cleaning that up." "Look, I want you to stay right there. I'm calling the police, and I'll come down immediately." "Yes, ma'am, 'cause it awful down here now. Awful." Gina is taking step by slow step around the school compound, over the fallen gate, and now through the streets that are like markings on a calendar. The sun is lowering itself, and Augustown is bathed in the red light of evening. While it is roosters that announce the morning, it is the parakeets that announce the evening. They fill the Augustown sky, flying from mango tree to mango tree, and dropping their green feathers on the ground. They screech what sounds almost like a song. The rhythm of the whole place changes. Women sit outside on concrete blocks with clips and baubles between their teeth as they comb the hair of little girls, who wince and will have to wear stocking caps to bed so that the hair is in place come morning. The little boys are freer. They play in the road in only their underwear and thin vests, running hose wheels with stretched out clothes hangers or bouncing a football between them. Everyone stops to stare at Gina, though she isn't sure what they are looking at. She doesn't feel odd with the dreadlocks held like a bouquet in one hand, or the bloody scissors still in the other. What she feels is nothing, but a kind of nothing that is full of everything. The way the color black is full of every color, which is to say that she suddenly feels herself as cavernous, as a place in which things can find an echo and a resonance. So the nothingness that she feels is loud and full. What she feels, if she could name it, is that same floating feeling coursing through her veins. What she feels is the color red of evening. What she feels is the parakeets and their feathers. What she feels is the cracked road, and the zinc fences still graffitied with JLP and No to Communism. She is almost back at Matafe's house. She does not hear the police jeep behind her, how its wheels crush the gravel. She does not hear the policeman with his bullhorn telling her to stop. "Stop now, ma'am, and put your hands in the air." She does not see how the boys, in just their underwear and vests, are running inside, following the women from the concrete blocks who have grabbed their daughters to grab them in as well. She does not hear the policeman on his bullhorn again saying, "Drop the weapon, lady. You must listen when police talk to you. You for blood clot, drop the weapon and put your hands in the air." No, she does not hear any of it. She only sees Matafe running off the veranda towards her, and she wonders why. Why should Matafe run like that? And she can't even see. Suppose she should stumble. She feels like laughing. She wants to say, "Matafe, have you forgotten your age papers?" And Kaya is running towards her as well. She does not hear the first gunshot, fired as a warning, and she does not feel the second, fired by another policeman who thinks the first shot means it is open season. Neither does she feel the third. But how could the day smell so much of jackfruit just so? She wonders. The stinking, clawing stench of an overripe jackfruit that has fallen to the floor and burst open. And why is Mad Taffy now falling to her knees? Falling the way so many mothers have fallen to their knees for years. And why is her face twisted in such pain? What is wrong, Mad Taffy? She wants to ask. Why are you so downcast, oh my soul? And Kaya is in front of her. She wants to reach out and pick him up, but now she feels herself falling. She feels herself draining from herself. She thinks, I have been poured out like water. Kaya seems to be shouting, Mommy! Mommy! But though she sees his lips move, she does not hear him. She thinks, yes, I am Mommy, your own Mommy, who will never let nobody trouble you. My name is Gina Elizabeth MacDonald, Miss G to others. I am the bright girl from the ghetto who's going to rise out of this shithole. Yes, Kaya, we're going to rise out of here. She thinks, I am the dispenser and the watchman. I am the shepherd and the trumpeter. I am the flying woman. And she thinks, and she thinks, and every thought is like an echo of something else, of a terrible history. Her mind is the red evening sky, a vast chamber full of green birds and wings, and she thinks, and she floats, and she falls. Chapter 27. You will not find the body, which you may find incredible or incredulous, but perhaps it is time at last to make space in yourself, to believe such stories, and to believe the people who tell them. Go now then, back down to earth, and then to Augustown. Sit on a veranda and just be still. Just listen. It would be best perhaps if you go to the house that once belonged to Mad Taffy, and where she once lived with Gina and Kaya. Mad Taffy is dead now, of course, of natural causes, but at that house they will remember her. Now, let the night settle into all the corners of that dismal little valley. Let the mongrel dogs settle into the potholes where they sleep. Let the music of speaker boxes play some sweet reggae music, and let the guns bark. Let the men seated around the corner shop slap their dominoes on the table. Let everything find its rhythm, and then wait for someone, another old woman perhaps, to turn her face toward the hillside that still wears its scar. Wait for a kind of remembrance to begin. You remember Softpaw? He was the first real bad man from Augustown. Marlon was him rightful name, and him had a talent to just creep up on you and you don't hear a thing. We all did think that it was Babylon that would kill him one day, but it wasn't. It was him own people that do him in. Throw the body over there in a Mona Dam with concrete block chain up round him. And remember Sister Jilzine, the one who did sing so beautiful? She did on the same day when all the autoclaps did come to Augustown. Lord have mercy, yes. You remember that autoclaps? The police left quickly that evening. After Gina fell, there was a sudden quiet that was not a peaceful kind of quiet. No, this was the quiet of old and hungry tigers that knew they still had within themselves the strength to pounce. Doors started to open, and people walked into the streets, their backs upright, their shoulders squared, looking straight at the police who knew this time to feel a little afraid because they did not have muscle enough to fight this. After the police left, the schoolboys of Augustown tied together the laces of their old sneakers and threw them up high into the air until they caught over the electric wires. the wires that run from post to post, like Calvary repeating itself on every street. And why do they do this strange ritual, this throwing of the shoes whenever someone has been shot down? No one can tell you exactly. Maybe it is to create a path in the air, a suggestion to the dead that up there is where they should be walking. The police left the body in the street. Matafi went inside and came back out with white sheets. She wrapped Gina's body with them, and then neighbors helped her to lift the body out of the road and lay it down again in her front yard. They blocked the roads that night. They dragged old fridges and stoves and tires and sheets of zinc into the streets. They poured kerosene oil and set fire to it all. Black smoke rose into the sky, and Auguston was hedged in by this burning. JBC TV News and RJR Radio reported that there was great unrest in the troubled community, that residents of Mona and Hope Pastures and Beverly Hills should exercise caution. Still, at least one woman who lived up there in Beverly Hills was trapped in Augustown that night. Mrs. G had gone back to the school. She had waited for an ambulance to come and take Mr. St. Joseph's off to the hospital. The one-eyed madman is one of Papine's regulars, a filthy barefoot beggar whose hair has clumped into 3 magnificent locks. He wears a dirty patch over his left eye, but hardly anything else, so his long, crusted penis is often seen dangling by his knees while he walks about. The one-eyed madman sleeps on a bench in the middle of Papine Square. He does not sleep on a sheet of old newspapers or on a pillow of cardboard boxes, just himself on the bare bench with the warm Jamaican night wrapped around him. If the square is his bedroom, then the street is his toilet. If you are in Papine early one morning, you might be so unlucky as to see the one-eyed madman squatting by the traffic lights, positioning himself over an open drain, a thick braid of shit pushing its way out of his body. For this, the one-eyed madman has had the foulest words and the largest stones thrown at him. He has been chased away even by cars. Sometimes he runs towards Gordon Town and further up to the Blue Mountains, but always by nightfall, One Eye returns to bed down on his bench. By nightfall, people will have forgotten the nauseating sight of his excrement, or they will have forgiven him. He is just another madman after all. But because he is a madman, no one knows how to acknowledge the fact that they need him, that his presence gives an order and a sense and a balance to their days. It is almost certain that in the year that Wani dies, the people of Papine will walk around for months nursing an emptiness that they will not be able to explain. They will not care to know that the one-eyed madman's leaving has upset their equilibrium so greatly. On the evening when this man stopped being Mr. St. Joseph's and became instead the one-eyed madman, Mrs. G stayed back after seeing him off in the ambulance. It was she who mopped out the classroom, then rearranged the desks in a neat and tidy order. By now the sun was down, and the crickets were chirping innocently, and she sat at one of the desks and cried. In the classroom she blamed herself, for on his very first day of teaching, Mr. St. Joseph's had stormed into her office. Should this have been a sign to her? And after he had left, Mrs. G had stared at the door and thought to herself, "This is not a man to be teaching young children." Yes, she had actually had that precise thought, and so it was that this came back to accuse her. She wept. The minute hand on her watch had spun around the dial twice before she decided it was finally time for her to go, that Mr. Garrick would be at home worried. She drove out of the school, but soon found that very road in Augustown was blocked, hedged in by fire. She made no fuss about this. She parked the car, stepped out of it and into the warm night of Augusttown. It wrapped itself around her in a welcoming way. The night seemed to tell her that she was a part of this. Mrs. G walked, and she walked until she found the lane where candles had been lit all the way down and shoes had been thrown over the overhead wires. She walked up to Ma Taffy's veranda, where the old woman was sitting in absolute silence, the boy Kaya weeping into her lap. "Welcome," Ma Taffy said. Mrs. G nodded and took a seat herself. There would be a time for these two women to talk, but that time was not now. In the streets, they had set up some big speaker boxes, and they played sweet music throughout the night. The Tamlins singing Baltimore, and Bunny Wailer making them rock and groove, and J.C. Lodge reminding them that somebody loved them. There wasn't any great outpouring of sadness. Nobody read a Bible verse. Nobody offered any remembrance or any impromptu eulogy. No one went up to Ma Taffy and Kaya or Mrs. G to tell them how sorry they were and how everything was going to be okay. No, it wasn't going to be okay. It wasn't that sort of night. They were just easy together, sitting out in the streets and drinking rum and red stripe beer, and all the time the body was just lying there in the yard, wrapped up in white sheets. It was getting close to midnight. Then Ma Taffy got up, just like that, and said, "Turn it off. Turn off the music." There was a great shuffle to do this. The lane slipped into a sudden silence. Ma Taffy descended the stairs and went into the yard. She drew Kaya along with her. They stood over the body. Ma Taffy began to sing. Hers was not the best singing voice. It was old and crackly and could not stay on any one note. It didn't matter. She sang. Mrs. G went over to join them, as if she were family, and she put one hand around Kaya and the other hand she stretched out. That's when the body began to move. No one gasped. No one fainted. It was that sort of night. It was a night when such things seemed like the most normal thing in the world. More people were now joining in on the song. Who could offer a descant offered her descant, and who could offer a bass offered his bass, and who could offer a tenor offered his tenor, and so on. Just like that, a thing will rise up into thin air, and so they sang. The body rose off of the ground. They sang some more. They sang until the body was floating above them, wrapped in its white sheets. Now everyone was lifting their hands up to the heavens. The body just kept rising and rising, as if it wanted to join the crowded sky. On the night of the autoclaps, the sky was velvet blue. A silver of moon was shining. The body rose, the sheets billowing about it. It grew smaller with distance. It soon looked like a white bird up there, flapping its wings. The bird oared the night air. It circled around Augusttown. It squawked. Then the bird began to beat its wings harder. It rose even further up into the sky. It rose so high that it soon became just a dot of white light. And they will tell you that this is where she is right now, risen up there in the heavens, in a section of the night sky that overlooks the vast sands of the dry river and the pui trees and the zinc fences and the lanes that run in untidy directions, that overlooks Kintyre and Gola and Dread Heights and Armageddon Yard. Up there is sky and emptiness, though such emptiness depends on human presumption, a terrestrial idea of scale and distance. In fact, there are many things up there, many kinds of stars, pulsars, quasars, white dwarfs, and red giants. There are asteroids and meteorites and comets and dust. Up there is water, endless lakes of it, enough to drown the earth 1,000,000 times over. And there are clouds that taste of raspberries and that smell of rum, and planets of ice and planets of diamond, and at least 12 dogs and chimpanzees, the remains of failed space missions, their carcasses forever floating about in space. Up there is the Lion of Judah, the Black God, Marcus Garvey, Bedward, Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah Rastafari, and these are just the things we have names for. Gina, that person that once was me. I am none of these things, not asteroid, not star, not angel. I have become something else. I am just another once upon a time, another crick crack, another quiet as it's kept, another invisible man, or perhaps woman, just another voice without a mouth, another consciousness without a human body, another story, pulsing its intermittent light among the galaxies. I am floating. But wouldn't you like to be me? For what is more human than this? The desire to escape the troubled earth and its depressing gravity? What is more human than the desire to rise above it all, to fly? Down there is Augustown, 17 degrees north, 76 degrees west. It sits between two hillsides, and one of these carries on its face a scar that feels to many as if they wear it on their own skin. Down there, they look up each night to see me and imagine that one day I will return, more dreadful than ever, with lightning in my hands and with judgment to mete out on Babylon. If only it were so, but it is not. It is not so. I am simply here, up here, another nameless thing in the sky. End of Augustown.